Ever since OpenClaw got released, many people have started using it as an all-rounder personal assistant, letting it run their entire personal and professional life. But how can it fit into a developer's workflow? As a developer, there are a lot of tasks that need constant monitoring and controlling. It gets tedious, and even a missed oversight could lead to huge disasters. So, our team pushed OpenClaw to see how many developer tasks it could actually handle for us. We set it up on one of our Mac Minis, built different workflows around it, and let it run for weeks. Now, OpenClaw's creator did join OpenAI, but that shouldn't matter because not much has changed for the project itself. And after weeks of testing, we're starting to understand why OpenAI wanted the person who built this. If we have hosted our websites on Vercel or any other hosting platform, we can also monitor it with OpenClaw and let it report and fix the dependencies on its own without needing our input. With React apps, there are cases when the dependencies get upgraded because their libraries often get vulnerabilities, meaning upgrading to the latest patch is critical for ensuring app security, like we saw with the React server vulnerability a few months back. So in such cases, we used to manually update the dependencies and push the fix to the source control we were using. I let OpenClaw manage this as well. We created a dependency maintenance cron job that frequently checks the repo code and the dependencies. It followed the guidelines we had provided for managing the dependencies and reported back on the Discord channel with updates. So with this in place, we had it run every 12 hours. And once it ran, we got updates on Discord that there were new dependency issues and that it tested a safe lock file refresh, which means it updated dependencies to the latest stable versions without breaking changes. It also reported the things that needed our attention, which in our case were the baseline quality checks like linting and testing, which needed our input to fix so that it can push the patch on GitHub. Once the execution completed, it upgraded the dependencies and updated to the latest version on the platform. Since our team has a YouTube channel, we actually have a Discord server where we all talk about different ideas. For a channel like ours, our team needs to be up to date at all times with the latest releases in order to test things out properly from different angles. Our team was already using Mac Minis inside our setup on which we were testing and developing stuff, so one of us suggested we should use one for the OpenClaw, letting it act like a server within our setup. We used one of them to set up OpenClaw and created a cron job that researches through our sources for ideas and compiles research targeted towards the tools we usually use in our workflow. It also provided video angles and explained how to use each idea. So with this setup, our team starts our days with a detailed research report in our dedicated text channel. This way we can do our daily briefing on the tech news, what the latest releases were, what the big changes were, and all of the resources clearly organized with different video angles that we can benefit from. It also provided the source links for each piece of news so that we can dig deeper on each item. And this was just one angle of research that we can do with OpenClaw, but this idea can be extended much further than this to research tools, competitors, and much more. When working with cloud providers like Google, AWS, and others, it often happens that we get higher bills than expected because of an incorrect configuration of a VM or any misconfigured load. And we only get to know the bill when we get the invoice, unless we monitor it manually using the CloudWatch consoles of the respective platform. But with OpenClaw's abilities, it's possible to automate that as well. So our team created a skill for an API cost watchdog, which checks the budget using the CLI tools of the cloud provider we were using for our project. We had it placed inside the skills folder in the .openclaw folder, and the skill was recognized on the dashboard. We created a cron job using OpenClaw's chat interface and tasked it to monitor our API keys and the cloud consoles. We asked it to report back any anomaly on the channels we had configured for it, which were WhatsApp and Discord. Using this, we were able to get a message alert on our Discord that the resource usage had spiked in the past 60 minutes and had almost doubled because a certain service had a burst of retries. It also gave actionable steps on what we can do right now to prevent the spike. This setup gave timely reports, preventing the bills from climbing further. Now, this skill, along with other resources, can be found in AI Labs Pro. For those who don't know, it's our recently launched community where you get ready-to-use templates that you can plug directly into your projects for this video and all previous ones. If you found value in what we do and want to support the channel, this is the best way to do it. The link's in the description. We can also use OpenClaw for monitoring any hosted app. We had an application that we had already hosted on Vercel, but we needed to ensure the security of the application and make sure there was nothing wrong on the server's end that could be harmful to our app. For that, we set up a heartbeat system that performs frequent health checks. When we provided it with the domain of our app, it automatically ran frequent checks to monitor the website's uptime and security issues. It also scanned the website server logs using the credentials we had set up for Vercel and checked for cross-site scripting and SQL SQL injection, ensuring that the application remained secure. This way, it sent us updates on the configured channel on Discord, where it gave us the overall health check of our application in terms of security, uptime, and average response time as well. It also provided some actionable security hardening steps that would make the application run properly, such as adding security headers. But before we move on to the more interesting parts, let's have a word from our sponsor, Luma AI. For developers and technical creators, the primary bottleneck in generative video has always been temporal consistency. Luma addresses this by shifting Dream Machine from a simple generator to a comprehensive production suite. It begins with pre-production tools like Boards and Brainstorm, which allow for structured asset organization and visual iteration before a single frame is rendered. At the core is the new Ray 3 Pi, which generates native 1080p video 4 times faster and 3 times cheaper than previous iterations. This efficiency is critical for rapid prototyping and iterative workflows. However, the true production value lies in the advanced control features. Character reference finally solves identity persistence, locking subjects across different shots, while Modify enables complete environment or lighting swaps without altering the original physics or motion. This is essential for building consistent narratives. Use the link in the description or scan the QR code to try the full suite yourself. Aside from hosted app monitoring, you can also monitor the application for SEO performance, which is important to make your site visible across search engines. So for that, we actually created another heartbeat check to monitor the hosted application for SEO, where it periodically ran multiple checks on the app and ensured that the app is indexable, contained all the required items for a website, and that robots.txt and the sitemap are reachable. Once it ran, it sent a full report on how our application was performing so far in the context of SEO and reported all the findings. It also gave the fixes that we need to implement in our app to make the site more visible and rank higher in search results, such as fixing the route to sitemap, adding in meta description, and adding proper tags. The thing about OpenClaw that stands out is its ability to run on its own for long-term tasks and execute them independently without needing much supervision. This makes building with OpenClaw easier because it handles testing and bug fixing without explicit input from us, which makes shipping end-to-end smoother. In addition, we can also connect multiple models to OpenClaw and create multiple agents set up using the models most suitable for each task. So this is the exact reason people have been building and shipping products by letting OpenClaw coordinate and handle everything on its own. We gave the PRD for the app we had planned to build as an instruction to OpenClaw in chat and asked it to create the app. Once it set off, it first needed approval in OpenClaw for running the tools. And once approved, without needing any input from our side, it just built the app, pushed the repo to GitHub, deployed it on Vercel, and gave us the links. We also got a summary of its working in the chat. This website was built with the combined power of Codex and the Gemini 3 model, using the best capabilities of each model as needed and matched the requirements in the PRD exactly. Also, if you are enjoying our content, consider pressing the hype button because it helps us create more content like this and reach out to more people. Claude Code is a strong coding agent, but the one area where Gemini has an edge over it is in image generation capabilities. OpenClaw can be used to bridge the gap between the two, letting us use the power of both combined. Now, we previously created a skill for using Google's Nano Banana image generation abilities, where we talked about another workflow in which you can get free image generation with Claude Code. You can check out that video on the channel. But OpenClaw also comes bundled with a similar skill called Nano Banana Pro as well, which just needs an API key to enable it. We tested the native skill as well and saw how well it compared to ours. Once the skill was enabled, we used the OpenClaw, provided it the directory path of where the app should be, and asked it to use Claude Code to implement the website, use the Nano Banana Pro skill to create images that fit into the application and place them in the public directory so that Claude can access the images and use them on the landing page. Once it got the approval to proceed, it started the implementation of the application. It broke down the large task into subtasks instead of giving a large prompt to Claude and implemented them step by step, giving us updates on the progress of the implementation and continuously committing to Git as well. In the meantime, it also generated the images that fit with the application. One thing to do before using Claude Code via OpenClaw is to either preset the permissions that would be needed to create an application, like we did in the settings.json inside the .claude folder, or ask OpenClaw to run using the dangerously skip permissions flag. This is because OpenClaw tends to get stuck when Claude Code asks for permissions before implementing anything, and OpenClaw OpenClaw has no means of allowing the permission on its own, causing the session to end in a timeout. This way, the whole website was created just by coordinating Nano Banana and Claude Code together, generating images that fit directly into the website flow and allowing us to use both of these tools together. If you're working with a lot of people and you send cold emails to sell your product, you can use OpenClaw to automate this as well. OpenClaw handled the research of leads and possible clients. We were looking for some potential developers who were working on LLM applications so that we could reach out to them and get their reviews on our product. The best place to look for such developers is GitHub, so we gave it instructions to scrape the GitHub trending page and get all the top ranking users who are working in the same area and have their email and contact information public. We set this up as a cron job and scheduled it to run at 9 a.m. every morning. This way, when we begin our day, we return to email drafts already prepared in our account. OpenClaw saved all the potential clients to a folder in the Documents folder and created draft emails only instead of actually sending them because it needed our cross-checking before sending to the people on the list. These drafts were solid and were exactly built the way we instructed. We gave access to our Google account via the GOG CLI, which comes bundled with the OpenClaw installation. We just needed to enable the required APIs from the Cloud console and add the credentials from there. Once configured, it was able to access our Gmail, and when the cron job ran, it created 3 draft emails, including the style we had specified in detail when setting up the cron job via the OpenClaw chat, like emails should be casual and conversational and contain a soft CTA. This way, we were able to reach out to multiple people through cold emailing to expand our reach. And since OpenClaw runs on its own all the time as long as the device is on, it works well as a personal assistant. This is because we can configure it with multiple tools, like we did by connecting it to the Google Workspace CLI for all Google products. You can also connect it with many other platforms because it comes built in with multiple skills such as Apple Reminders, Gemini, GitHub, and many more, most of which are already pre-configured. You just need to enable them or provide the API key for them to work. With this setup, we've actually been using it as our personal assistant. We set up a heartbeat that scans important emails on every cycle. We did this because a lot of emails from newsletters often cause important emails to get missed when your inbox is crowded. This heartbeat instructs OpenClaw to prioritize emails marked as important and ignore promotional emails and newsletters. It scores emails based on the criteria defined in the cron job, identifies actionable items from each, and updates them on the configured channels, be it WhatsApp or Discord. So when we check, we only get email updates from Google Workspace for the items that actually need our attention. We can even ask OpenClaw questions related to calendar events or schedule tasks directly from chat messages. There are often times when we had to use Claude Code, but we were away from our devices. It used to be frustrating because we were unable to access what we had in Claude Code and had no way of accessing it remotely. With OpenClaw, this gap also got bridged because now we just tell our OpenClaw setup to go to the directory where we have what we need and run Claude Code to do whatever we want. As we mentioned earlier, OpenClaw is unable to interact with Claude's permission prompts on its own and gets stuck indefinitely, so we either pre-allowed the permissions we know will be required, like create, write, and edit in the .claude settings, or explicitly ask it to run with the dangerously skip permissions flag. Once that's in place, we asked Claude Code to run a research in a directory we use to manage our research tasks and return the complete summary to us. This opened up opportunities for pushing changes in the code base, reviewing PRs, and fixing production errors, all from our chat applications even when we are on the go. Now, these were the different ways you can use OpenClaw, but in order to use it effectively, there are certain things you need to be careful of before installing this in the first place. We talked about this in detail in our previous video on this tool. You might end up seeing that video on the end screen, so you can just click on it instead of looking it up. That brings us to the end of this video. If you'd like to support the channel and help us keep making videos like this, you can do so by using the super thanks button below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.